everyone. Welcome to this week's time of couples therapy. Hubby, do you want to wake up?
Oh, Zenkaiger over? What did I miss?
Absolutely nothing.
Oh, so the episode's over.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can go back to sleep.
Okay.
I hate when he falls asleep on me because he always does it when I'm not in a comfortable position. And then he wakes up refreshed and I'm like, okay, I can't feel my body any longer.
So we're recording Zenkaiger.
Yes.
Cool. Why am I all the way over here?
Because I wanted this entire space to myself.
So
we're all close together. We're just like a couple.
Personal bubble? Personal bubble?
I'm married to you. There is no such thing as a personal bubble.
Personal bubble?
Alright, anyways. Thank you for joining us through that ridiculous acting. I will accept my Oscar and hope...
Your Oscar?
My Oscar. And I hope...
The Grouch?
To be in the next big film.
Are you ready for your close-up, DeVille?
I'm always ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille. But nevertheless, we are here for this week's episode of Zenkaiger, episode 23, which is called Three Great Combos and the Biggest Battle on Earth, which I have seen a number of different tokusatsu series, including Sentai, Kamen Rider, Garo, Metal Heroes, the Space Sheriff series, and I can honestly say many of those series have had bigger battles, but I digress. So
you digest.
I said I digress.
Oh, it sounded
Clean out your ears.
It sounded like you said you digest.
Well, I am digesting because right before recording this video, we actually had dinner, which was the quietest dinner we've ever had because...
I know, it was peaceful for once.
Oh, good to hell. But nevertheless, usually when we're having dinner, we're animated, we're talking.
Okay, our eating dinner was kind of like that post-credit scene in the first Avengers when everyone's eating shawarma and no one's saying anything. That's kind of how it was. I don't know, this entire episode just wiped me out completely.
I know, I actually thought he was going to fall asleep in his food. And I'm like, dude, wake up. It's okay. We even took a walk, we even exercised, and he's still like, but nevertheless.
Well, I think it's just, I think the problem is watching all those episodes of Kaito, which was very engaging, all story-driven, and then we come to Zenkaiger, which was Zenkaiger.
Okay.
It's just... Yeah.
The people are here for Zenkaiger, they're not here to listen to us talk about other shows.
Are you sure? Because I think they're just here now to watch us, to see how we're going to banter off each other.
Well, yeah, because this is couples therapy. But nevertheless, getting back on track. So our previous episode ended with him feeling better about himself because he called it with the Battle Caesar Robo Deuce. All I'm thinking of is Hot Shots Part 2. But,
oh, that kind of do.
So, we had the episode end with that for episode 22. Episode 23 starts, they're still fighting, and you hear Majine say, are we going to fight until the sun comes up? And then you have Kaito splitting off from Zox.
This is like 30 seconds into the episode.
Yeah, we're at the beginning of the episode. And they de-transform and get to the ground. And even Stacey's like, what are you doing? And Kaito's like, time out. And I'm like, this is a battle. This is you fighting against an adversary. This is not playing baseball or dodgeball or softball or any game that you can have a timeout.
At this point, Sentai Dodgeball would have been more interesting.
But, well, you did have that back.
Bombardment! Bombardment! Bombardment!
But nevertheless, and I feel like I'm saying that word a lot tonight.
Nevertheless.
Because I'm trying to ring us back in.
There's furthermore, nevertheless, nonetheless, in spite of, despite.
Okay, this is not an English
However,
lesson. So, they do the timeout, and Kaito says, I want to battle you, Stacey, just mano a mano. And Stacey's like, fine, noon, where we first fought. I did think of like, okay, that's all I thought of is all those Wild West movies. I didn't know tumbleweeds were real until a couple of years ago, but okay. So then we get this scene of them with the villains, so to speak. And I actually have to say their trampoline was pretty dang cool because Stacey got to jump up and down multiple times. I know it's not really a trampoline, but it felt like it because...
No, it's just moving their images up and down.
I know, it's still, I think of a trampoline. So Ijarud and Stacey are getting yelled at by the big boss because... Well, Ijarud's getting yelled at because...
Stacey stopped
the battle, but he didn't stop the battle. But his comment was like, well, it would have been a war of attrition then. And I'm like, that's a very smart comment for a kid's show. That's like, and I know that's kind of rude because these shows aren't just made for kids, but I'm like...
But that's the target demographic.
But war of attrition, who's really going to know what that means? Do you know what war of attrition means?
No.
Okay then. And you're like an adult kid. Honey, I tell people you're my 6'1" child, and people actually think I have a child. And I'm like, no, it's my husband. So a war of attrition is basically a waste of resources. You just keep on fighting, and there's no actual benefit or result.
Okay, I think I have heard of that.
Yeah, so basically all you're doing is you're wasting everything, and there's no actual winner. Think of the war in Iraq. That was a war of attrition because they've wasted so many resources unnecessarily. Mm-hmm. So then Stacey...
The Crusades.
Exactly. That's a war of... Well, it's a war of attrition, but that's a little bit more because just like with the Library in Alexandria, you lost a lot. You lost a lot of history, which is even worse on the attrition scale because then there's no backwards reference points that you can even call upon any longer. Anyways, there's your history lesson, everyone. So... as Stacey walks out trying to be all cool with his highfalutin talk about war, Barshatara comes in. He's like, have you lost your nerve, Stacey? So Stacey then gets his hackles up and he's like, no. I was like, wow, you're like...
Whatever you say goes back to you and sticks like glue.
All I thought was the kid saying like, whatever, Dad.
Oh yeah, no, it was... I'm bubblegum and you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you.
Oh God, do kids still say that? Do kids still say that?
Actually, no, I don't think they do.
Thank God they've grown up because that was the lamest. It's like...
They've got other lame ones though. That there's ones to complement that.
Okay. And then we go back to Earth. Kaito can't sleep. He's sitting there staring at a picture of his parents. And Yakchin, she comes out, gets a little fright because she didn't see...
Apparently couldn't see him, even though he was like right there in front of the door and stairwell.
And so they're talking for a moment, and she makes the comment near the end of their conversation that Stacey had mentioned not coming back, and she wondered what had happened. And so then Juron comes up, because apparently after Grandma leaves, Juron comes in, and he's like, let's talk.
Well, no, Kaito had walked outside.
I
He
know.
said he was going to take a walk. Juron came outside and was like, hey, let's go get some food.
Well, because Juron is Sentai Dad. If Shiru and Voltron was Dad, Space Dad, you have Zenkai Dad with Juron. Because he's the dad of the group. And it was like funny because in Akito we watched so many scenes of the one older detective having the younger detectives Kono eating ramen with the younger detectives, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like Akito. Is this like a rite of passage in Japan where the older senior individual says, we're gonna eat ramen? I love ramen, but still weird. So they talk, then we have the spaceship scene because Flint does some work to make some upgrades to the ship. Doesn't really go into detail of what they are. And Zox apparently says, I'm not going to join the fight because Kaito wants to work on this on his own. And he's trying to be this supportive ally.
Oh my god, that green screen.
Okay.
Flint's hair was green in some of those. I mean, I know we talk about how bad the green screen is normally, but it was just really bad in this episode because when I'm just seeing green hair on Flint, it's like, oh my god, they didn't even bother to fully
clean the screen.
Yeah.
That's why I've come to the conclusion that I'm just going to ignore the green screen. I'm going to see the objects in the background, but I'm just going to breathe.
At least the chairs look like they were really there.
And watch the show. And so then we get to the battle. It's just supposed to be Stacey versus Kaito.
Yeah, like we had when we had Shinken Red versus Juzo, only not even a quarter of as cool. Because it starts, they're firing each other, and then Stacey decides to call out the O-Rangers to fight.
And then when the Kikanoids are like, that's not fair, Stacey's like, well, it's my weapon. You didn't expect me to use my weapon? And I'm like, no, because you're supposed to have honor.
We actually expected a good battle, an actual legitimate good battle.
There wasn't a one-on-one battle, because then the Kikanoids...
The only thing I will say was the camera work at the start of their battle was pretty awesome. Because when the camera work was going above them and a little bit around and twirling, that was pretty cool at the start.
No, I honestly thought the battle was extremely busy.
It was a letdown. After all that build-up for the last 20 whatever weeks we've had of wanting to, or I guess technically it'd be the last, 10, 15 weeks?
15.
Of finally waiting to see Stacey and Kaito battle it out again. I feel like we got shortchanged yet again. That was more of, haha, we're just kidding.
Well, the reason why I find it so busy is because first we do get the O-Rangers. The Kikanoids transform, they come into fights to help Kaito. Then
I did like how they did their roll call as they were fighting.
Yes.
The O-Rangers.
That was a very classic move that I thought was pretty cool. So then Stacey and Kaito are fighting again, just the two of them.
Stacey summons the Shinkengers.
Which, I'm like, seriously?
And then Zox comes in and gives them O-Ranger powers, even though those aren't really O-Ranger powers, and then gives them Shinkenger powers, which that at least was the Shinkenger power. And then Stacey goes...
Which I think the reason why O-Ranger and Shikanger were chosen is...
Because of Zox.
Well, yes.
And then Stacey goes into Battle Stacey Robo... Caesar Robo. So Kaito transforms...
into his Zenkaiger mode.
And
or
then they fight...
gear.
And then Juron merges
Well,
with him.
no. Then they fight... Kaito is getting his ass kicked. So Juron says, because...
Well, technically it was Gawan originally, but Gawan was too injured.
And Juron says, merge with me.
It
wasn't a... Because first, obviously, Kaito's mech is taller than Juron. So pieces had to come off to him to shorten him down so they could merge. And the head design was the worst for me.
Oh, the head was awful with that, like, dragon
Yeah, it was... and I don't mind
that thing, because it's like a cobra on Egyptian crowns, but it should have been in the front then, not to the side, because it just looks...
Well, I don't mind an asymmetrical appearance, because asymmetrical can be pretty dang cool. That's why Death the Kid is
All
my
I know is
favorite
I wanted
character.
to hear Kaito go, ow, 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 as he was, like, split. And how...
Honey, do you want me to explain the birds and the bees to you?
As long as you include the bees and the bees and the birds and the birds and the bees that used to be birds and the birds that used to be bees and whatever that whole tirade went on the other day.
I can explain it all if you'd like me
It's
to.
just that, no, I'm saying though, Kaito's parts had to go like fold over.
Well, I think the hard part for me there is Kaito is in the middle of it as a person.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
And so, and the battle was engaging, but they kept on veering off to the land battle, so you only got like segments of the mech battle.
And then suddenly a monster, the giant
Kudai test.
The giant robot monster shows up, which seemed incredibly pointless, so Zox could have a reason to get involved.
Well, Ijarud calls because since Stay Caesar was winning, his thought process was, let me add more. So the Kudai test actually was more of a distraction.
So once again, Battle Caesar Robo completely got shortchanged in the battle again because a Monster of the Week type thing came in and interfered with the battle. We've never actually had Battle Caesar Robo actually fight a legitimate fight on its own.
So we then continue through the entirety of the fight, and the three great combos basically were, we had...
Kaito on his own, Kaito and Juron, and then Kaito and Zox.
We also had Zox's merging with the ship.
Yes,
that was the new combo as well. So Juron and Kaito were the first new mech. Kaito on his own, and then Zox with the ship. So they merged because basically his smaller form looks
because he destroyed the Monster of the Week.
Correct. But it wasn't a Monster of the Week. It was just the blank Kudai test.
And then the Kaito and create Kaiju. Oh, that pretty easily takes care of Battle Caesar Robo.
And then Battle Caesar Robo gets destroyed. Then you see... Kaito
and them celebrating, and then Stacey's in the river knocked out, and
well, I don't think knocked out. He was dead.
No,
based on the wording from how it was presented from Iago, when Iago took him to Ijarud, and Ijarud's comment is, "Why am I responsible for reviving him?" So I look at revive as almost dead, and if you don't understand what I mean by almost dead, watch The Princess Bride. But
and then I did like Ichiro was like, oh, is this the Emperor's tomb? Just do it.
I know, Gege, or as I fondly call him, Iago, definitely has a plan.
Just have some goddamn faith in my plan.
So I'm curious to see where Iago is going to go with this. Then Ichirud is left on his own. He's like, okay, so how am I going to do this? And he puts the really bad CGI pictures of Kaito's parents and chooses Mom. The floor opens up and we get a casket similar to another series we watched.
And then the mother's in there. Dun, dun, dun! Okay, I will say I did like the scene after Battle Caesar Robo got destroyed and Ichirud just like threw his tool at his computer console, just like, I give up.
I know, I was like, oh my god, it reminded me of you. Because the silence I heard from this side of the couch was deafening. And last week's episode really disappointed me. And admittedly, this week's as well. I'm not to the point where I'm going to give up on the series because I want to see it through. And I'm giving up on having a story. I'm fine with that.
Well, okay, that's the thing I was about to say. So we finally have at the end of the episode some actual plot with the parents that they do have Kaito's parents, and then next week looks to be nothing more than another fucking filler episode.
Language.
Like, what the hell?
Language.
Oh my god.
So it is hard.
Zyuohger had more plot than this.
So it is hard right now dealing with this. The acting for this episode was also, in my opinion, pretty subpar. Everybody played their parts, which was great. They did a functional job.
They didn't go above and beyond.
Well, and they didn't have their normal energy. The one really sad thing about Kaito's actor is, even if he's given poor writing, even in serious moments, you can see that spark of energy within him that shows that he is in it. And Stacey's actor, I really felt was just going through the motions. The only person who still kind of stayed on their level was Zox's actor.
But yeah, Stacey's actor just, I don't know, it just seems like he's tired of doing the same thing over.
Well, I kind of get the feeling as well that he's just tired of not growing. And we've had this argument in previous episodes, but this time I was really disappointed in the acting of all the characters because
there was no energy.
There was really no energy in this particular episode.
And that's even the problem with the fights. There was no energy in the fights themselves. There was too much going on.
Well, and you have O-Ranger team and the Shikanger team. And so you have both of these teams there, and sometimes they're just standing around. Like, is it O-Blue, or how do they do their call signs for O-Ranger?
O-Red, O-Blue, O-Pink.
So O-Blue there were times where, since he wasn't fighting anyone, that you'd actually see him in the background just kind of
waiting for him.
And then when they're fighting the O-Rangers to destroy them, the Shikingers are just to the side chilling. I'm like, okay, I can guarantee you, in other series, that would have not happened.
Even the Shikingers, like, when they started doing their final attack, the Shikingers just, like, stood there like, okay.
Yeah, I'm like...
Because even the Monsters of the Week will at least try to move or something as they're doing their attack, not just stand there still. And then, what was the other thing that I was going to say about it?
Like, even compared to last week's episode, the bullfighting episode, that had significantly more energy.
It did.
And this one, even in its serious moments, I was just incredibly disappointed with their caliber. And they may be overworked, which I know is an extreme possibility. But if nobody's giving it their all, there is a huge concern there.
Well, and especially a big battle like this that should have been epic. There should have been an epic feel to it, and that's just it. There was no epic feel to it. Like, again, You look at Juzo versus Shinken Red in Shinkenger. Their battles always felt epic. Joe versus Barizor in Gokaiger always had an epic feel to them.
Well, and I know with this series they're definitely going on a comedic take, but even your comedy-centric Sentai series also have that energy to it, even if they're not taking themselves seriously. And I'm not thinking as going as far back as Car Ranger. I'm thinking of even more of the modern series.
Well, okay. Yeah, well, okay. Since I'm watching it right now, Tokuger. Every time Emperor Zed shows up, it feels like the Rangers act like, holy crap, things have escalated, we need to be more serious, and the fights come out more serious. Or actually not even just Zed, even when the generals, like General Schwartz, whenever he appears, they always feel like the fights have more weight to them. This, it was just like, where's all the weight? It was just pointless, weightless.
And the other problem I have with this particular episode is there was no risk. Because we know that they're not going to kill off Stacey, because we've heard background talk that Stacey is an actor that they want to keep around.
And the other problem is Stacey hasn't done anything evil enough to warrant being killed off yet. He hasn't done anything evil.
Well, and the other problem is, you know, there was not going to be any payoff for the good guys, so to speak, either, because you knew they were going to win. And I'm not saying that other Sentai series make you feel like they're going to lose.
Okay, well, let's go back to, since we've been watching all day, Agito. Even though you know Suichi and Hikawa and Gil's Rio are going to win, there's still weight to the battles.
And
there's still seriousness to it. You still feel that there's still a possibility that they could lose that battle.
And this particular episode really didn't feel it. If I had to choose which felt more filler, the bullfighting episode or this, I would say this episode.
Oh.
I would say this episode was a filler episode, and that next week's episode is going to be a regular episode again.
Yeah, and that's not how it should be. This fight should have felt like something that was going to advance the show.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, it did the exact opposite, where it just backtracked the show. Because I feel like this should have been an episode that should have been 10 weeks ago.
I agree. And I know we're bitching, so to speak, about it, and that's not necessarily the intent. I just think as fans of tokusatsu, which I'm hoping is outside of couples therapy, I'm hoping that's another reason why you check out these episodes, is that you're also fans of tokusatsu, and that you also feel like these types of series need to be held to a standard. And I am very forgiving. I like the series, but just because I like something doesn't mean I can't call out
bullshit
when something is not going right. And what has been the saving grace for me with this series has been the acting. The acting of the cast, no matter how poorly the script is, you can certainly see where we're coming from. I actually feel, because since Sentai was downgraded, is that Junko is actually getting shafted, because I can see when they have to have a toy sale episode, when the writing has become even more crap. Because Junko has proven throughout this series that she does know what she's doing. She has her flaws.
She knows how to write heroes usually. It's just she just can't. And I think actually when you think about it also, with this show, because Kaito is like the central character, whereas with Zyuohger and Lupin Ranger it was supposed to be the whole Ranger team, she also is able to fully focus on giving Kaito the most material, because it's a one-person show with assistants.
Correct.
So she's able to handle a single hero show with backup characters.
No, and you can tell when she gets more control over an episode and then where she doesn't, because
that's the problem with this episode, and this is the other problem, is that, like, clearly, I don't even know if maybe, like, you'd think they would want to have Battle Caesar Robo be in more episodes, given they can push the toy sales for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering then, are they just half-assing it because they're not even releasing a Battle Caesar Robo toy?
Well, my other concern is, I'm curious on how well their toy sales are even doing at this point. Because I understand for Tokusatsu that toy sales really dictate how well a series does. It's not just views, it's the push and the sales. And I really feel that right now that the sales aren't doing that well, so that's why they're trying to push more merch.
But yeah, the dragon.
So at the end of the day,
Super Zenkaiser going.
It is going to be kind of nice to get back to an episode that, even if it is another filler episode, hopefully they have more energy, because at least from the trailer, it demonstrated that we're having a bit of more energy with it. But these last 2 weeks have been really disappointing for me, and I can't even say it's because of the fact that I'm watching other shows, because I try to judge everything separately. I don't judge it based on the sum of all the shows that I've watched, because then Zenkaiger would be at the bottom of the bucket. But I try to give it its own credit and its own value, because it's been created at a different time and place. But overall, I want my Zenkaiger back. I want the silliness and the ridiculousness that has been going on for the last few months, actually. And I feel like they are either out of ideas, or somebody in the background, probably a producer or producers, are really changing up and saying we need to do these other things, and it's causing a lot of conflict. I don't know the background story, so these are just assumptions on my part, but I want my Zenkaiger back.
I've got nothing.
So
I've said my piece.
On a happier note, we have ordered some merchandise for ourselves.
You said that last week.
I am going to continue saying it until I get this damn merchandise to show people.
Because remember I talked about that I wanted to do my merchandise.
I don't care. You can still do your damn video.
Whatever. Click like, subscribe, bell notification, whatever else YouTube has you clicking on these days, because they keep changing things around. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
Patreon
at Kaiju no Kami, and the website creativitybydesignllc.com. Until next time.
Bye.